If you're somebody that's in position to get business funding, leverage your personal credit to go and get a personal loan, and then you can go and deposit $20,000 in an account, $50,000 in an account, $70,000 in an account, and then sometimes they'll look at that and say, well, we can at least give them this because we know this is what was deposited in the account. So that was a major hack on how I was able to get a $72,000 business credit card with Chase when I only had a 680 credit score at the time, because they were going off of that relationship per se, as opposed to it strictly being a credit thing.
Hey business owners, what if I helped you get access to $50,000 in business funding for $1 a day? Would you be interested? Well, inside of my Credit Mastery community, you're going to be getting exclusive access to our in-depth training program that's worth tens of thousands of dollars to give you the exact strategies you need on how to restore your credit and on how to properly structure your business. You're also going to be getting access to a financial consultant with over a decade of experience in the funding space that'll help you reach your financial goals in half the time it would take if you were to do it on your own. And we're going to be giving you 2 coaching calls every week that'll give you the exact banks you need to go to get access to $50,000 to $100,000 in business funding. This is the same community that helped Pat get access to $50,000 in funding from Chase, helped Alvin get access to $8,000 in funding from Amex, helped Matt boost his personal credit score by 150 points, and helped Donna delete a bankruptcy from her credit report. So if you're interested, click the link above or below this video to join now, and we'll see you on the other side of success. Let's go, family.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Marvin Francois Show, your #1 source for all things business, finance, and investing. And today is a very special day because our guest today is an entrepreneur, former pro athlete, investor, mentor, business growth coach, and business credit specialist extraordinaire. He's the CEO of Wealth Accelerator and owner of Wealth Academy, a program responsible for helping aspiring entrepreneurs take their funding dreams from desired to acquired. From a short-lived career in football going pro to building a multi 6 to 7 figure business where his customers can't say no, his story is one of consistency, conviction, and commitment to helping viewers like you get to the next level. Whether he's helping business owners clean their credit and acquire well over 6 figures in funding in less than 90 days, or giving the blueprint on how to make your first 5 to 10K per month in business, the game that this gentleman gives is proof why his success in the space is not coincidence, it's confirmation. And today, he's here to do more of the same. Ladies and gentlemen, from Dallas, Texas, I'm here with the one, the only, my guy, Mr. Basil Jackson. What's going on, family? How are you?
Man, my brother, I was thinking, they say like if you're staying the same, you're not getting better. I didn't think you would be able to like one up that one, bro. But he did it, y'all. He did it, man. He did it.
Man, I have to. How are you, brother? How's everything?
Man, good. I'm good. I can't complain, bro. I'm just living life, man, one day at a time, bro.
You've been absolutely crushing it. This is your second time now being on the show. The first time you were killing it. And similar to you with my intro, I'm like, there's no way Basil could do more than what he's doing right now. And lo and behold, you just keep setting the bar higher and higher and higher. And man, you've been doing tremendous work out here in the community, brother.
Glory to God, man. Glory to God, man.
100%, man. Happy to have you back on. The first episode ripped it. People were burning down my DMs and saying, if you don't bring this brother back, we not trying to see nothing else.
They saw the chemistry. That's what it was.
That's what it was.
It was like, man, the 2 best looking brothers in the credit repair and funding industry, man. It was like, we gotta get them together, man. We gotta get them together. So
have to. And lo and behold, we moved some things around, but here we are. And I'm excited for today's conversation, brother. I know it's going to be a great one. Obviously, I'm familiar with you. There may be some returning viewers who are also familiar with you, but there are a larger group of people who may be watching who's just like, who's this guy? So let's go ahead and answer that question for them. For those who are unfamiliar, let's get them familiar. Who exactly is Basil Jackson?
Man, so I like to, I said we're the best 2 looking brothers, but somebody got to be number 1. So I like to consider myself, man, like the Chris Brown of credit repair or something, I love man. It. So my name is Basil Jackson. I go by Billionaire Basil on social media. And I'm just somebody who, like a lot of people watching this, wanted more for themselves. And so I've been able to build a 7-figure business while working a 9 to 5 in a short amount of time. And, we're blessed to say that I'm not working a 9 to 5 anymore. So yeah, this is where we at with it.
And we're going to get into that. But yeah, let's unpack that a bit more because, obviously people see the success that you've been able to have now, but I'm sure it wasn't always like this. Let's just take a step back a bit to unpack your story for those who don't know. Walk us through what life looked like before the credit game, before success in the funding space, before you were coaching individuals to having 5 to 10K, 10 to 15K months and beyond? What did life for Basil look like around that time?
Man, it's it's so crazy whenever you think about just kind of how life works, and you think about, for me at least, a lot of people that look like us, they say, rapping or playing sports is kind of the way to make it. So I grew up in a neighborhood or in a community where if you made over $100,000 a year, or if you made $100,000 a year, you're living a good life, and so naturally I couldn't rap. So, I was like, okay, I'm going to pursue the sports. Played sports all my life, ended up, going to college to play football, ended up, having this dream of like, making it to the NFL. That materialized, but they don't tell you NFL stands for not for long. So I was able to get picked up by a couple teams. I kind of bounced around, trying to find my way. And what they don't tell you about as you get those opportunities, if you're not one of the guys that got drafted, if you're not a main person, you're not really making money. So you might have 10K followers and a blue check, but you're not getting an actual check. So
right.
Sleeping on grandma's couch, and really just bumping my head, really trying to figure out and really just like trying to make this dream work, this lifelong dream. And throughout that time, I was pursuing entrepreneurship. I knew that I would be mentally unemployable because I had been kind of in this space of like, you eat what you kill by playing sports, being on scholarship in college. And so, prior to all this stuff, I was kind of working odd jobs, UPS, FedEx, Discount Tire, trying to make my NFL dreams come true. And got done with that. People were like, athletes do well with sales. You should get into sales. So started, going through the ranks, went through AT&T sales development program, graduated first in the class from that. Had the big, corporate job with, the global accounts. I had the sports accounts, Tesla, Apple, Disney, all those types of accounts, as a sales rep. And, life wasn't life, and, the money wasn't money. And I just was kind of like, man, there has to be more to finances in this. There's people that are killing it, or at least that's what social media shows. And so I really just started to kind of dive into, learning about credit and really just kind of trying to get my finances together. And fast forward to today, and we'll go back some more, but fast forward to today, I have funded, over 20 million myself for people. And then we have a coaching program now, and altogether we've funded about 75 million altogether with the people in my coaching program. So it's been a blessing, man. And the journey here hasn't been an easy one, but it's kind of one of those things of like, you think about the compound effect. It's like you have these things that happen in your life that you think are failures or you think are trauma or struggles, but those things actually end up being the experiences that you leverage, getting into the business world. So,
man, so I want to start off first on the football point because, with you, like you said, you had a dream of making it to the league, and it would have been a situation. It's one thing, and me researching your story, it would have been one thing if, it stopped in high school because of injury or it stopped in college. But if I'm not mistaken, you made it all the way to like at least practice squad level. I think you actually played for my team at one point, the Cowboys. Yeah. So with that, what's interesting is it's easy to look back and think to yourself like, oh, that was just a stepping stone for me to get there. But when you're in it and you have this dream and it's not going the way you want it to, it's not fun. What was going through your mind mentally when like the writing was on the wall? You're just like, yo, this football thing is not finna be what I want it to be. What's happening there?
Man, I'm starting to realize, when I think this is when kind of the idea of like purpose and stuff starts to come into mind now with this level of maturity that I've reached. Because it's like when you're trying to pursue something that is just not meant for you to do, no matter how hard you work at it, it just sometimes it just doesn't work out. And so we're talking about a space where I was healthy, I was good enough, I would get calls from the teams. I think my last workout was with the Chargers, I believe in January of 23 or 24. Last year was 24, so 23. And man, it was hard. It was hard because a lot of people don't realize it's like, okay, do you really love the game and you truly want to play sports as a professional, or is this something that you were told, is the avenue for you to be successful and to live this kind of lifestyle where you can provide for your family and stuff like that? So, like I said, glory to God, I've been able to put myself in a position to where we're able to have these conversations and actually set goals, towards doing some of those things and fulfilling on some of those promises that I made.
Let's fast forward now, right? So football doesn't work out and now you're kind of trying to find your footing. At that point, was there an introduction to entrepreneurship for you at home or in your community? Did you grow up around other people who were business owners, or how did you start to find out about, working for myself and being my own boss and building my own business? How did that come about?
Yeah. So I, I had some business owners in my family, but they weren't doing legit business though. But I do come from a long line of what I would consider people that, hustle and don't settle for kind of just what society says that they should have. During COVID, there were some times where I really had my first taste of the digital space and the education space. I actually created a course to help other football players learn how to get overseas contracts and get in touch with CFL coaches, different things like that. But I've been entrepreneurially minded, if that's a word, for a really long time. I remember in the fourth grade, I had my sister type up a letter or type up a flyer basically for me to try to get people to let me cut their grass for like $10. And somebody actually took me up on that offer, and it took me like all day, and I ended up having to use their phone to call my mom, like, can you send my brother to come help me cut this grass so I can leave? So been definitely into business for quite some time, but really didn't understand what the purpose of business was and how you can impact people and different things like that. So as I said, kind of we're in a super blessed position to be able to be in an industry where we can make a lot of money in being in the credit and funding space, but also just impact so many people who are just still uneducated on like just the power of credit.
Yeah. So now going forward, you find yourself in the credit space, and this was around the time where you're working at, you have the sales job at AT&T. Of all the different industries, what was the intro to credit? Was it a specific person? Was it a thing? Was it an experience? How did you find yourself in that space?
Man, it's so funny because I feel like a lot of us, ignorant to credit, kind of treat having bad credit like a cavity. It's like, dang, I have this problem, but I really am just gonna try to ignore it because it's like in the back of my mouth. So I was kind of one of those people where throughout my lifetime I had had to apply for apartments, try to apply for cars, and I would end up having to dish out more money. I was just like, nah, I didn't really understand, kind of the power of credit. But whenever it came to the point to where I was running an Airbnb business while working for AT&T, and this is the part that people don't talk about. I left my 9-to-5 to pursue this Airbnb business that was thriving, that I had bootstrapped with my own money, reinvesting the profits, and there was just this like just really nasty drop. The building that I was in, we started having issues, so we didn't have bookings and different things like that, and that was kind of the place where it was eating into my pockets, and in that scenario, I ended up having to shut that business down, go back to my 9-to-5. And then throughout that time, that was kind of when I had this epiphany, like, yo, like I just had to dig into like all of these life savings to dish out money to try to just keep this business afloat, to even be able to just exit so that I didn't further mess up my credit by, getting evicted in all these apartments and houses that I was in. And then just looking back on all of the times where I was running these businesses and, I was spending my money, but then once the business makes money, you need to live off that money. So you're not really growing the business. And so that's kind of where I really had this epiphany, like, man, I'm done. Like, I'm exhausted. I'm going back to this 9-to-5. I'm just going to really focus on cleaning my credit, getting in position. And whenever there's an opportunity that's good enough, then I'll pursue it, and naturally through the process of cleaning my credit, documenting the process and how just excited I was to see results for myself. And then once I started getting funding, people started reaching out to me. And that's kind of when I got this idea, like, dang, maybe I could, kind of turn this into a business.
I love it. So through your own personal journey, you now find yourself in credit, and from there you hit the ground running, and the rest was history. But if we fast forward now, not only are you still running and maintaining your own business within the credit and funding space, but you're now in a position where you're leveraging your expertise to teach other people how they can do pretty much what you do. How did that come about?
Man, so it's so funny because in kind of offering that service, I would have people that would kind of just reach out to me on the side, or people who I offered that service to, they were like, I want to get funding, or I want to repair my credit, or I want to start a business. But leveraging a bunch of debt to start a business is not everybody's calling. Some of us are meant to be workers, some of us are meant to be brokers. And so that's kind of how that coaching program really developed, of like, okay, here's an opportunity where you can still make some income, and you either don't have to leverage a bunch of debt, or you can do it while working a 9-to-5 like I was at the time. Or not only that, you can make some money on the side while you're still repairing your credit. So the goal of it is money, don't get me wrong, but and we want to fix our credit, but being able to earn some extra income to help you, whether pay off those debts or, just get on track. It's one of those things that of why it's just so essential and why it's so amazing.
To date, what would you say has been one of the bigger success stories from some of the students that you've been able to coach to start their own funding and credit businesses?
So I have a couple different sides, and I'm doing some consulting as well, but I have a guy that I'm actually about to link with after this. Got in the industry at the same time as me. We were kind of going down our journey at the same time. I was investing in coaching that would help me go to the next level, but more recently I developed a system that helped me grow my credit repair community to over 500 members in a couple months. And that's a paid subscription. It's $99 a month. And so I actually helped him implement that same system and start a community. And so he has over 300 members now. Dope. And he did that in about 60 days. So, $30,000 a month reoccurring revenue or recurring revenue for somebody who doesn't have a lot of debt, that's life changing.
Bro. Yeah. Listen, you got 30K coming in with your feet up. Yeah, that's a very different conversation.
Especially living in New York, bro. I went and grabbed some food the other day. It's expensive out here. I'm like,
you need that. If you live in New York, you definitely need that recurrent. So, once again, this is now you're in a space where you're not new to a lot of what you're teaching people. You're true to it because you've lived it. So you're you were once upon a time in the same position that a lot of the people who are coming to you are in now. And that's why I'm so excited for this conversation, because I want to be able to give pretty much the blueprint to those individuals from start to finish on how they could put themselves in the same situation as that brother, as all the other people that you've coached, and even you as well, right? To where they can change their life in understanding how credit works, but more importantly, understanding how to monetize it. Can we do that?
Yeah, let's do it, bro.
All right, let's run it. So let's start off for ground zero, right? Let's start off on the personal credit side. If I'm watching this interview, I have nothing, no credit at all. I'm starting from the floor. What's the first step that I would need to take to start building my credit, to put myself in position to have my report look the right way?
Man, this is like a God thing right now that this is just coming to me. But I would say the first thing you need to take is you need to do some mindset work.
Talk to me.
Because a lot of us, either watching this episode or a lot of us that we're in a position of needing to clean our credit before, if you're leveraging someone else's service to do it, or even just doing it on your own, you have to understand that it is going to be, you might have messed your credit up over 10 years. It is not going to be fixed in 10 days.
Yeah.
There are people who do get these insane results. We're getting insane results for our clients as well. But you can't always expect someone else's results to be a direct indicator of exactly how your process is going to go.
Yeah.
So I would say the big part right off the bat is just a mindset. If two people go to the gym at the same time, they do the same workouts, they're eating the same food. One person might have a six-pack in 30 days. The other person might have a six-pack in 3 years, and that's just the reality of what it is. So the first thing I would say is just understanding the mindset, number one. And then the extension of that mindset part is the credit bureaus are not your friend. For whatever reason, they're swamped. There's people sending thousands of letters. The credit bureaus are not your friend. They're going to report things inaccurately, whether it's credit builder accounts, positive accounts, negative accounts. They're going to report things inaccurately. So even as we transition to talking about okay, let's build this credit out, you have to understand they're not going to play fair. So you'll stress yourself out thinking that why are they reporting this negative item, or why hasn't this hit all three of my credit bureaus, or whatever it might be. So I would say definitely you want to do some heart surgery and some mindset work there as it relates to understanding this is a process.
Yeah.
And when we talk about foundations, whether it's building a house or whatever it may be, you don't want to make the foundation be the quickest part that you do. You really want to spend time there so that as you really build out this house or whatever it may be, you really have built something that you can do cosmetic work to, but the foundation is strong regardless of what's going on. In Texas, there's houses that have been up since early 1900s and stuff. So foundation there. So next thing I would say is we want to build our credit out. So assuming a person has, and I'll even go here, assuming a person has bad credit, technology has just completely changed the landscape to where we have things like ChatGPT, where if you want to clean your own credit, you can go on ChatGPT and you can do things like draft me a letter to remove a late payment, using consumer law or using Metro 2. And ChatGPT can put this letter together and then just Google the address to the credit bureau. So you can create those letters for whatever the negative items are on your credit report. So that's how you can remove some of the negative items. Now, as we transition into talking about building the credit, because that's the most important part. A lot of people talk about credit builder accounts. A lot of people talk about primary accounts. So might as well do some education on what those are first before we kind of get into some of the best ones. So a credit builder account usually is an account that, maybe a secured loan, maybe a secured credit card, different things where you can put up your funds and secure that those banks or those lenders can trust that you're going to pay those debts. And then if not, you have put up the money kind of as a security that they can take it if you didn't pay it on time or whatever it may be. So those are accounts that what people don't realize are so important, because if you have negative items on your credit report, you go and get those credit builders and you're paying them on time. Your credit doesn't always have to be perfect. This is a misconception a lot of people have. They think that your credit has to be perfect to go and apply for things. Sometimes, it's as simple as applying for something or removing a hard inquiry. So if you have those credit builder accounts, a lender who sees you may have a paid off auto loan with a bunch of late payments, they could see that you have a credit builder for the same amount of those payments. It's like, oh, he's been paying it on time for a year.
Yeah.
We can use that history and look at that as an example of why we can extend credit to him for an auto loan or whatever it might be. So those are the credit builder accounts. As far as the primaries go, you want to look stable, right? Anything that's in your name is what I tell people a primary account is. So auto loans, student loans, credit cards, different things like that. So you can go and add primaries as well. And usually you want to have 10 to 12 accounts. So I know we talked about this before, but ideally for me, that's the foundation. That's the minimum. We want to have 10 to 12 accounts. We want it to be a mix of primaries and credit builders, but we on the Marvin Francois show. We got to get saucy. So
let's do it.
We got to show them how to get some primaries
Let's
the
do
easy
it.
way. Cool. So starting out with a blank credit report, some of the easiest things that a person get approved for are an auto loan. So, for whatever reason, they'll give an 18-year-old $100,000 worth of student loans, but they won't give you a $100,000 business loan.
Yep.
So with an auto loan, you can go leverage banks like Lightstream, whoever you bank with. A lot of the credit unions give out those auto loans as well. But you can go and get an auto loan like Lightstream, and you can go and get a $20,000 auto loan, $30,000 auto loan, and you can do things like go and get an auto loan. You can either pay it right back. Okay, now we have a paid off primary on our account.
Yeah.
But what I like to do is we getting saucy. What I like to do is I like to have my clients go and get an auto loan. You have to be responsible. Don't go spending money on a new Rolex. Don't go spending money on a boob job or I don't know, whatever else. I gotta talk crazy, but talk spicy. But don't go spending money on something you don't need.
Yeah.
So you can go and leverage getting an auto loan from a Lightstream or someone who deposits those funds, or a Navy Federal, someone who deposits those funds into your account. And then let's say you bank with Navy Federal, or let's say you bank with whoever, then you can go and get a couple secured loans, because some banks like Navy will allow you to have, let's say, up to 3. So let's say, boom, we're going to show you how to get 4 accounts. So you go and get the auto loan. They give you $30,000 cash.
Yep.
Now I'm going to go take $5,000 out of that auto loan. And then I'm going to go say, okay, Navy, let me get a signature loan, or let me get a secured loan. You can put up your $5,000. They'll hold that $5,000 and give you a loan. And then you can pay back, let's say, $4,900. And then you can pay that $100 back over 10 months. So let's say you pay that back, they give you those funds right back, the $4,900. Go get another one for $4,900. Okay, then they give you $4,900. You pay that $4,800 back, and then that's 2 accounts. And then boom, you can just keep continuing to pay it off. And then now you have, let's say, $300 that you end up having to pay off for that. You can go ahead and pay those accounts off, and then you can pay that auto loan off as well. And that's 4 primaries right there.
So we have one primary from Lightstream that's around anywhere between like 20 to 30.
20 to 30.
And then we could take a portion of that loan and pretty much roll it into 3 more secured loans with a bank like a Navy Federal. So we essentially have 4 secured loan, or 4 loans that are showing on our report as primary accounts, paired with the credit builders that we have on there.
Paired with the credit builders like Kickoff, Self, you got Rental Karma. We all have to live somewhere, whether it's your grandma's basement or your apartment. You can go and backdate that rent, and you can use that history. And they ask you to just put a reference to whoever the landlord is. So if you're staying with your grandma's a landlord. Just let Granny know, like, hey, look, they're going to be calling saying that I'm paying rent here. Hopefully you're paying your grandma something so you don't need her to lie, because she's like, well, I'm not going to tell them you paying $4,000 here. You ain't paying $4,000 here. So you can have someone, even if you have a roommate or whoever, be that person that acts as your landlord, and you can backdate and report your rent on your credit. Like I said, Kickoff, Self, Boom Pay, Ava, there's so many out there. And then not only that, you can go and do the secured credit cards as well with those same funds from that auto loan. And then you can go and get a secured credit card where it's like, okay, I've paid this credit card on time. I'm using it for things that I'm already doing in everyday life. And then now they're going to turn that into unsecured credit. And then you can then go and get another credit card or end up paying off the auto loan. And then they'll sometimes even double and triple whatever that original limit was. So then you can just run it back with higher limits.
So we're building if we're starting from the foundation, we're building with the credit builders. So we have 2 to 3 credit builders, like you said, Kickoff, Rent Reporters, all these different ones. Then we swing over and we get a auto loan from Lightstream paired with 2 to 3 secured loans. Then we now leverage that to now go and, if I heard correctly, start getting unsecured cards or getting secured cards.
So you can do this, and you can do the secured cards as a part of doing those loans. So let's say you're banking with the Navy. There's so many credit unions out there, NIH, Andrews, PenFed, all these different types of credit unions, because everybody thinks Navy is the best one. There's so many other credit unions out there that you can get that also give out those auto loans a little bit easier, that you can do the exact same thing. But you can go and get a secured credit card from those credit unions, and then eventually, as you show good history, they usually have a pre-approval tool. They'll let you then turn that into a regular personal credit card, and those credit unions are giving out the bag.
Yeah,
a lot of people are stuck on the Amexes and some of those cards, but it's like, if you don't have those strong primary accounts, those strong personal credit cards already, the Amexes and the Chases and some of these other banks aren't going to extend higher limits on those cards. So you can go and get the high limit personal credit cards, and now let's say you got 10 to 12 accounts. Then you can slap a trade line on there, because a lot of people think they can just add a bunch of trade lines and go get funding. That's just a huge misconception. But then you can slap some trade lines on there to help with that age, and we can get busy on the business side, if that's your aspiration.
So much there. So what you talked about, how, for you personally, you mentioned a couple of different names. You talked about Navy Fed. You also mentioned Amex and how you're more a proponent of credit unions. Are there any other banks that once we've followed the strategy you've laid out, any other banks that, if we want to start building out relationships on the personal side, that you would also recommend us looking into?
Man, there's so many. I would say it depends on which of your credit, which of your credit bureaus are the best, right? Because a lot of times, a lot of people are so dead set on their entire credit report being clean before they get started. But you got to realize, the sooner you start, all of those accounts that you add, you're getting more age as those months go by. So if you're waiting until your credit's completely clean to add credit builders or to add whatever it might be, then you're just prolonging the process of whatever your end goal is. But we got Dover, we got PenFed, we got Andrews, we got Langley, so many, Passecu, so many. But and then you can use credit boards and different websites that can allow you to go see, okay, like, who do these banks pull from? Or to take it a step further, you can just lock all your credit reports and then apply for this stuff, and you'll see kind of who they pull for. But with a lot of these credit unions, what people don't know is they think that Navy Federal is the best credit union in the world, which Navy is one of the great ones. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, when we do these episodes, whenever we talk about these things and they become public information online, you got to realize they start to move the goalposts, especially for people that look like us. So there are other credit unions out there, so many credit unions. There's over 4,000 banks in the U.S., and they're looking for qualified people to give to, that you can go and start relationships with these credit unions. And they're easier to get into than Navy, because a lot of times with Navy, you have to have an affiliate code or a member in the military. But with a lot of these credit unions, you just have to donate to, a third-party organization or something like the American Consumer Council, or they might have, with Passecu, I want to believe it's a Pennsylvania State Recreation Park or something. It's like $10, but you can get into these credit unions, you can get into these banks, and they give out the bag. A lot of times you can double dip with one inquiry, to where you're not having to bump your head with Navy Federal, because Navy Federal's tightening up.
They are.
They are.
You said something before, which I thought was also key too, because I'm sure I get these messages, and I know you probably get them too, where people will message me. We talked about trade lines and how there are, I'll call them trade line warriors, where it's like they think that they're going to authorize user themselves to success, to the Lambo, to the 100,000 of funding. Then they go into these banks and they're looking at them like, bro, you have no credit. And in their mind, they think they do. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's one of the bigger misconceptions that I'm still seeing people are struggling with when it comes to building out and understanding there's a big difference between focusing on building primary credit and leveraging our authorized users.
Man, I want to say this too, because I talk to a lot of people. Like you said, we have people all the time. When people message you and they're like, I want to get funding, or I want to, whatever it is they want to do. This process is not just going to be an overnight process. So if you're somebody that is watching this and you're like, I want to get funding, and you're in a rush, or you're trying to like do these things, you probably don't need any funding if you're in a rush to clean your credit and get. If you need to clean your credit and then get funding, you definitely shouldn't be in a rush. You need to get in position. That's why you have to do that mindset work, because a lot of times there's so many people out there with these trade lines that people are buying from, and it's like, for the cost of one trade line that you're paying somebody $400, $500, you can go and get 6 or 7 credit builders. Kickoff, Self. Some of these credit builders are only $10 to $20 a month. And you can let them report and then close out. That's what a lot of people don't realize. You can close them out at any point in time to where they'll give you your money back, and you still have that account on your credit report. But with the trade lines, it's an opportunity to piggyback off of somebody's credit, which is awesome. But at the same time, too, that's a temporary boost. That's not going to be a long-term solution that allows you to actually get in position. So trade lines are for people who already have their credit built out and may need a couple points of a boost extra, or maybe if your utilization is out of control, maybe you want to add a couple trade lines so that you can maybe get a debt consolidation loan so that you can pay off some of your debts, or for someone who needs more age on their credit because they have a bunch of accounts, but whenever they're applying for stuff, they're seeing the denial reason is, 2 new accounts, or, the age is not enough. So those are the opportunities of when you should use trade lines. They also help out as well whenever you want to go apply for certain banks. So like, let's say Chase, for example, you can go and add, a big limit Chase AU or trade line, so that whenever you do go ahead and apply, they're going to see, oh, somebody that this person knows, whether it's a family member or whoever, felt confident enough to put them on this AU card, that maybe we should extend this credit to them as well. Because what a lot of people don't realize is when you're being added to an AU, they give you another card. They issue another card for whoever's getting added to that AU, but oftentimes whoever's selling that trade line spot or whatever it might be, they're not giving you that card. But from the bank's perspective, if I've been added to an AU that's high limit, for all they know, I'm the one that's using this card. And so that's the part where people are getting that history, and that's why they help. But those are something that you add in addition to the other stuff. It's not something that's supposed to be the foundation.
So you've given us the blueprint now on the personal side. Now let's swing over to the business, because we set up the personal so that we're able to get leverage on the business side. Once we finish doing all that legwork of getting ourselves structured and organized there, what's that first step look like of us getting funding on the business side? So
I think a lot of the stuff that, whenever we talk about getting funding, when we talk about building your credit, what a lot of people don't realize is, if you're someone who's building your credit, someone that's repairing your credit, you should be doing all this stuff while you're doing that. You shouldn't wait until your credit is fixed to set up your LLC, or you shouldn't wait until it's time to get funded to set up your LLC. While you're building your credit, you should be sourcing, whether it's a mentor or whatever you're going to do, you should be writing that business plan. You should be setting up that LLC, doing those different things, so that once it's time to actually go run those plays or get in position, you're already ready. You're just waiting on everything else to hit. So with the LLC, for example, as it's time to go and get funded, we got to have the proper business structure. So whenever it's time to get funded, you got to have the proper business structure. There's a lot of information out there about S corps and or corps and all this stuff, and how you can get more money and stuff like that. But for the person that's watching this, all you need is an LLC. A lot of you guys are talking about, these gurus are saying, oh, you got to get a corp so that you can get the high limits of funding. Majority of these people, and I don't want to say these people make generalizations, but a majority of people don't need $1 million in funding, don't need $500,000 in funding, don't even need $200,000 in funding. $50,000 to $100,000 in funding should suffice to help you at least get started in whatever business model. If you're someone that's trying to get into real estate, I don't recommend going and get $200K in funding and then putting all the chips on. So you want to set up an LLC. An LLC should suffice. I got to say this too. Look, a lot of people will tell y'all, go and get an address from Opus or Regis or Alliance. Things are changing with the industry, and so many people are getting these addresses that banks, if I'm giving you some money, I need to know where you live at. I don't want to know where you telling me you live at, or where you might have just put on the paperwork. So there's nothing wrong with putting your address on the LLC. Obviously, you can have those virtual addresses, but you shouldn't be doing shady business anyways to where people are trying to pull up on you. And obviously you can go and change it at some point, but a lot of these banks are not extending credit to people who are using virtual addresses. So that's one of the major changes that I've seen kind of in the industry. So you can use your address to set up your LLC at the beginning, or you can use the virtual office. But whenever it's time to apply, depending on the bank, some banks, they'll allow you to use your personal address, even though you use the virtual address to set it up. But some banks are going to say, no, we need the address that you're using on the application to match what's on the paperwork. So for a lot of people, if you don't have a brick and mortar business and you're just setting it up for the purpose of getting funding, you need to just go ahead and put your address on there. A lot of people are saying set up the LLC as human resources consulting, general consulting. We talk about low risk, high risk industry, stuff like that. I'm cooking, man. I'm over here.
I'm giving you the floor.
People talk about these. This is another misconception. A lot of people talk about like high risk industries. They've said to stay away from transportation. They've said to stay away from trucking. But if you're running a legit business, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Obviously, the financial industry, a lot of times stocks, publicly traded companies, different things like that, they might not want to extend credit to you. But trucking, transportation, real estate, these banks will give out credit cards, especially the tier 1 banks, the Chases, the Bank of America, these big banks. They have so much money, them extending, $50,000, $40,000, whatever it might be, to a trucking or real estate company in the form of a credit card is not a big deal to them. It's once you get into like some of the loans and lines of credit and the cash things where it's like, okay, you got to look together on paper. You have to be a profitable business, different things like that. So you want to set up your LLC properly. I will tell people right now what I consider high risk would be the consulting stuff. If you want to set up your LLC as consulting, I would say actually look at what it is you're trying to do. The thing is what a lot of people, there's a lot of misinformation out there with the gurus and stuff that are telling people to do things to try to finesse the bank. But it's like, literally, think about what you want to do business-wise and then go get funding. Don't try to just get funding just for the sake of getting funding.
Yep.
If you want to get into real estate, tell the bank that. If you want to get into trucking, tell the bank that. If you want to, don't tell them that you're doing credit repair if that's what you're trying to do. That's the one thing too. Don't tell them if you're trying to do credit repair, but whatever business industry you're trying to get into, whether it's group homes, cosmetics, different things like that, you can be honest with the bank about what you're trying to do. And when you're applying, you can give them an explanation of what your plan is, and that stuff that will be considered kind of in the underwriting process. So I would typically say set up the LLC as what you want it to be. Whatever your plan is for the business, set the LLC up as that. You can do, if you are going to do real estate or trucking, you want to do human resources consulting or some type of consulting, then you can just say real estate consulting, like property management, or for transportation, you can say something like, I'm going to just do dispatching or something, where your business isn't looked at as risky. If you are somebody that just still wants to stick with that information of setting it up as consulting, but you want to make sure that you have an address, you want to make sure that you have an email, you want to make sure that you have a telephone number. So those are the parts where you want to make sure that you look good on paper, because if you want to go and get big funding or big money like the big businesses, you want to look like the big businesses on paper. But at the same time too, if you're an LLC that's just starting out and it just looks like a shell of a company and it's like a virtual address and all these different things, the bank's not going to give money to you. You want to look like a legit business. You want to know what you're talking about when you get on the phone with these banks, and just have a story to tell. If you have a story to tell, then they're going to want to lend to you. But when you don't know what you're trying to do, you're just trying to get money, it's like, well, I think I'm going to get it. Then you probably don't need to get funding. You probably need to just
sit on the sidelines.
Sit on the sidelines.
Sit on the sidelines. What is the process? Because we hear people talk a lot about, you talked about structure, but we hear people talk a lot about building relationships. What does that process look like on the business side?
So on the business side, and I'm going to give some game here too on how to build relationships, but as it relates to building relationships on the business side, depending on the bank, a lot of times what people don't realize is if you're about to apply for a business credit card, building a relationship is great, right? Like in the short term, your internal bank score is basically how the bank is ranking you based on your deposits, based on how much money has come out, different things like that. If you look lendable, that if you just start a business, if you just open up a business bank account, you just start a business, in a shorter time frame, you're going to look better by making smaller deposits or making larger deposits in a shorter time frame. But if you've been with a bank for over 2 years and you haven't even had $5,000 in that account, and you're trying to tell them that you're making $2 million a year.
Yeah.
I'm like, where that $2 million at? Because it ain't with us.
You're right.
Like, you need to go ask whoever it is that you
got that
that's
$2
getting
million
this
in there.
million.
Yeah.
Give us some of that money and then we'll talk. So as far as establishing relationships, what a lot of people don't realize is 30, I would say kind of the 30 to 45 day time frame is what I would consider an ideal time frame.
Okay.
If we really want to get saucy and we're talking about, trying to, the people that talk about the 90 days and the stuff like that, different things like that, before you ask for more money, what you can go and do is if you're somebody that's in position to get business funding, leverage your personal credit to go and get a personal loan. And then you can go and deposit $20,000 in an account, $50,000 in an account, $70,000 in an account. And then sometimes they'll look at that and say, well, we can at least give them this because we know this is what was deposited in the account. Mm-hmm. So that was a major hack on how I was able to get a $72,000 business credit card with Chase when I only had a 680 credit score at the time, because they were going off of that relationship per se, as opposed to it strictly being a credit thing. So when it comes to them pooling your credit, it's going to be one of those scenarios where it's like there's multiple factors that are considered. So sometimes, you might not be in position credit wise, but you may have a good relationship. And that's even when you talk about revenue-based lending, that's how it works. It's like, okay, this person is in position credit wise, but they have the revenue to support why we should give them some money. So
Hey business owners, imagine being able to walk in and out of banks and starting to see approvals instead of rejections. And it's not because you changed anything with your business, but because you put your personal credit report in the position it needed to be in. Here at Takeoff Financial, our team helps business owners just like you using consumer law strategies that'll get real results in real time. We remove collections, charge-offs, late payments, evictions, delinquent student loans, along with anything else that's keeping you from getting to your funding goals. And best of all, it's completely done for you. We send the disputes, file the complaints, and do everything needed to help put you in position to access your first $50,000 to $100,000 in business credit. So if you're interested, head over to takeoffinancial.com or click the link in the description below to book a free consultation with me and my team to learn more about how we can help you get one step closer to your funding goals. So we build our relationship with these banks. Now we structure our business, we build our relationship with these banks. Now, what does that process look like? Because one of the words I hear thrown around a lot, or we know it's thrown around a lot in the space, is sequence, right? Knowing the right banks to go to, understanding where these banks pull from to make sure that like once you do all this heavy lifting, it doesn't matter if you're partnered or in relationship with 3 or 5 banks, you go to this bank first, and you go to this bank after, and you go to this bank after that. What does that process now look like when we're trying to, I guess, identify, okay, which of these banks we're going to go, what order of these banks we're going to go to for the funding?
Yeah, so a lot of people overcomplicate this. Really, literally, the first foundational piece that you need to know about this is there's going to be, usually for the most part, depending on the bank, there's going to be three bureaus that these banks pull from: Experian, TransUnion, Equifax.
Yep.
A lot of times, there will be some banks that may pull from your check systems. There may be some banks that pull LexisNexis, some of the secondary bureaus, but for the most part, most of these banks, especially the tier 1 banks, are just going to pull the big 3, the main 3. So as it relates to going and getting business funding, whatever bureaus are the best, those are the ones that you want to identify as like, okay, I need to find banks that are going to check my score on Experian, or check my score on TransUnion, or check my score on Equifax. So whenever you're setting up a sequence per se, is what they call it. It honestly is as simple as doing your research on YouTube and different things like that to find additional banks. But we on the show, so we got to give them some banks to go and do it. So,
let's do it.
So there's a lot of stuff out there. We got to go with the tier 1 stuff. This is the other part too. So I talked about the auto loan thing. So it's really up to, or about the personal loan thing. So it's really up to you. So I'm gonna give 2 ways basically on what banks you can go to. But if you leverage what I talk about with the personal loan plays, what I was able to do, it doesn't matter what bank you go to, is because a lot of times they'll give you that based on what that is. So we'll start with TransUnion. Personal side, we got like Navy Federal, all of the Elan financial banks on the business side. So what a lot of people don't know with Elan financial banks is there are a bunch of banks out there, smaller banks, who they don't have their own underwriting system. So when you go on these banks' websites, Liberty, Credit Union One, there's Ameris Bank, there's a bunch of banks where if you go to the website and you're about to apply for a business credit card and all of those websites look the same, just with a different coloring, Those are usually Elan Financial Banks. So you can do something as simple as Googling Elan Financial Banks Brooklyn or wherever you're located, and then you'll see a list of banks. You can go and apply for those banks online, and those are usually banks that you can apply for that pool TransUnion, and those credit unions are usually giving out anywhere from 15 to 25,000 per card. So as far as exposure goes, when I say exposure, it means how much a bank will usually give out before they start asking for docs. You can go usually up to 75,000, 85,000 with Elan banks before they start asking for any kind of stuff. And then with the time frame, the longer you wait, because this is a marathon, not a sprint, you can continue to go there. So TransUnion, those Elan banks, you can go and get 75,000 there, easy, boom, done. You can apply online for those because for a lot of people, applying through TransUnion is going to be easier. Then we got Bank of America. If you're leveraging the personal loan play, then usually Bank of America will give you a high limit. So what a lot of people don't know, I'm giving this out because we're on the show, but
Let's do it.
But a lot of my clients get the 40s, the 50s, the 60,000 on a Bank of America business card, where for most people, they might only get 10,000, 15,000, maybe 25,000 if they use a bank rep. But when we deposit those funds and then go apply, right out the gate, my people are getting those higher limits because it's like, dang, like we got to at least give him what he's showing us he has. So Bank of America's a great one. Depending on where you're located, Amex, we love the blue cards. I'm going to tell people to stay away from the charge cards, the gold, the platinum, because a lot of those cards, they're asking for you to, it's based off the spending power. The algorithm is weird.
Yep.
Those cards, they're usually going to ask for, they're usually going to ask that you pay that money back the same month. Whereas when you do like the business card, the Blue Business Inc. Or the Blue Business Plus, the blue cards, there's 2 blue cards on Amex. They'll usually extend you a limit. So depending on where you're located, they may pull Experian, they may pull TransUnion. Usually the beautiful part is with the Amex, they have the pre-approval tool where you can go and input your information, and they'll give you an offer before you have to accept it. So there's no hard pull there. So that's a major hack. So moving over to Experian, or with TransUnion, we also have U.S. Bank as well. They do a multiple credit cards anywhere from 25,000 to 50,000, but their line of credit is a soft pull on Equifax. So we'll actually pivot to Equifax from there. So Equifax, we got Citizens. They'll do a soft pull there. They'll give you 50,000 on a business credit card and on a business line of credit. 0% interest on that one. I mean, you actually don't have to have a bank account with Citizens to do that one. We got First Citizens as well. They also will do something similar as well, to where you can get a $50,000 credit card. That one you do have to go in branch. I would recommend having yourself together, look nice, just so that you don't even give them a reason to try to, give you any trouble or anything like that. I usually will try to stay away from Equifax for the most part, just because sometimes those inquiries are a little bit harder to remove. But a lot of the credit unions that we talk about, they all pull from Equifax. So you can leverage websites, like I said, like credit boards, where people will post their approvals and show you, okay, this is the bank that I applied to, and this is where they pulled from. So you're able to kind of go and verify and check for the most recent up-to-date information before you go apply. Now, as we swing over to Experian, we have obviously what's going viral right now is Chase. So if you aren't in with Chase, you need to go ahead and go ahead and get your money from Chase, because they're about to be shutting it down. They're about to be tightening up. Actually, come July 1st, they're about to be making some changes where they're going to be geo-locking people. So basically, if you don't know what that means, if you're not in a certain area, you're not going to be able to do a DocuSign with a bank rep that's in California, or you're not going to be able to do a DocuSign with a bank rep that's in a different area that you're not in. So basically what's happening right now is a lot of people are leveraging bank reps to push applications through. So it's going to be important for, if you're somebody that's in the space or trying to do this for yourself, leveraging having a bank rep in your area so that you can go and get that high limit business credit card for yourself. So Chase, usually they will give out up to 150,000 in business credit cards. Usually what we see people get on the first card is anywhere from 50 to 75,000. And then you can apply for a second card online that you can usually get like another 20 to 40,000 on. That's usually what we're seeing people get. I would say probably up to 110,000, I would say the most. But they give out up to 150,000 before they start asking for stuff. Navy Federal, Old Faithful, they pull Experian on the business side. They usually will give up to 25,000 or so. What I usually am seeing for people is they'll usually give out anywhere from like that 15 to 20K range. They usually don't go too high on that. And then Amex, as I said before, Amex will pull some of the experience stuff as well. So this is the part too that I want to add, kind of as I wrap up this part. If you're somebody that's gonna go and get a lot of funding for yourself, like you just love the game of getting funding, continuing to go and do those different things, then you'll be someone that can do the research to do these things. But from a business perspective, what I've realized, what has made us so successful in a short amount of time is we've been able to, dumb it down, not having, 10,000 plays that we're trying to apply for multiple different people, and just having, a couple banks that we do and just running those into the ground. So I think Bruce Lee said something like, I fear not the man that has done 10,000 kicks one time, but the man who's done one kick 10,000 times. So, that's how we've been able to really scale and really, grow our business, because we've simplified things. Once you start getting into just trying to have too many banks, then it's kind of one of those things where it's like you're all over the place. So it's good to kind of have those bread and butter plays that you run, just because otherwise you can be spinning your wheels and stuff trying to do that.
So that was a very thorough break, probably one of the better breakdowns I think we've had on the show ever. When we talk about funding sequences, I'm curious to know.
It's that cooking, man. I get why they say like I'm cooking, man. I'm over here burning up and stuff.
Burning up.
I'm over here burning up.
Here's my question though, from your experience, because once again, not only are you doing done a lot of these things for yourself, you're coaching people. What have you seen are some of the biggest mistakes that most business owners are making when it comes to getting access to funding? Because the information is there, but people still are falling short of. They want 50 to 100, but they're only getting $2,000 approvals here, $3,000 or $4,000 approvals there. What have you seen from your end?
I would say that there's a couple of different things, right? It really depends on the person. I think that haste makes waste. So to the point, of the mindset is the most important part. A lot of people are not really taking the time to build out that personal credit profile. They're doing the bare minimum. They're slapping a bunch of trade lines on, and they're like, "Oh, I have a 700 credit score. Like, how much can you get me?" And it's like, okay, well, why don't we go and add those credit builders, go and add those primary accounts, go and get those 2 high limit personal credit cards, at least up to 10,000 is what you want to have in personal credit cards that you own.
Yeah.
And let those sit for a couple months before you go apply. It seems like, for whatever reason, and I don't know if this is just a law of money, a law of life, but it seems like the people that are the thirstiest for the funding, for whatever reason, end up being the clients that only get 2,000 or 5,000.
Facts.
And then the people that are like, oh, I only need like 20,000, they get 75,000 on the card. So, and that just goes to show kind of more of a personality perspective of like those people have taken the time to build out their credit, and they're not necessarily in a position to where they're like desperate for the funding. And that's something that the banks usually can sense as well whenever you're talking to underwriters and different things like that. If you're somebody that's oh, I need to get this, like in your haste, your energy is chaotic, you don't have an idea of what you actually want to do with the money, they can sense that, because a lot of this stuff, and that's the beautiful part about using the relationship managers, they can have a live conversation with the underwriters of like, this is why this person is looking for this.
Yeah.
What can we do for this person, and different things like that. So that's one of the main things I would say is the personal profile. The second thing I would say is a lot of people are just getting the door slammed shut in their face due to the address thing. A lot of people are not putting themselves in position because they set up an LLC as consulting or general consulting, and then they have a virtual address or something like that. And that's something that's been a live in-game change. And that's why I say it's so important to be honest about what you're trying to do and setting up a home address instead of that address, because whenever it's time to apply, you're just another consulting business that's using the exact same numbers that everybody else is using. But if you actually take some time to go on ChatGPT, think about what business you want to run, and okay, how much money am I actually projecting that this business will make? Then they can actually extend you credit based on those numbers and that story that you're able to tell, as opposed to just using the same numbers and then, having a generic response. I'm a consulting business that focuses on blah, 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 blah. So
let's talk a little bit now about, we talked a lot of credit, but now let's talk about something you've helped hundreds of people do, which is turning that credit to cash flow, right? Monetizing this knowledge. You've been successful in building a very lucrative credit and funding business, and you're helping other people do the same. If I'm watching this, let's start off with the why. Why should I even consider starting a business around credit and funding? Taking this information that that you just gave me, this blueprint that you just gave me, and not just funding myself, but potentially helping other people get funded so I can create a business that's putting more money in my pocket.
Man, let me say this too, because I was on here and I said this and I saw like 2 or 3 other people say it.
Okay.
So it's like I know where the sauce is coming from. It's like, okay, I'm starting to see the influence and the impact, and I love it.
Okay.
In 2025, there is not a easier business model to get into than starting a credit and funding business. When we talk about the concept of getting into business, we want to pursue things that are we have to think about different things like, you know, what's seasonal, what are things that change, you know, credit repair as it relates to, you know, or even funding. You have to stay up to date because there will be nuances and changes in the industry. But fitness, credit repair, I would even say beauty, or things that involve, you know, selling to women, are going to be recession proof. So from a perspective of if you're wanting to pursue something where you can have kind of that compound interest of where you can stack your skills and stack your information over time, credit repair and funding is a great industry because over time you can continue to just gather information and learn more, to where you can look up and you have all this experience that allows you to build a profitable business. Not only that, if you're somebody that's watching this and you work a 9-to-5, credit repair, as far as the fulfillment goes, or even funding as far as the fulfillment goes, it doesn't take a lot of time. So if you're somebody that's watching this and you're like, okay, I'm working a 9-to-5, I want to make an extra $5,000 to $10,000 a month, then you need to start a credit repair and funding company. Because not only is it recession proof, there is a thirsting, never ending demand for people that are messing their credit up. And then now we're talking about, okay, if I'm working a job, or you know, if I'm doing something else, or if I run a business, whether you're in real estate, whatever it might be, you can leverage whatever business that is to just network with other people and ask them, like, what's your credit like? Do you need more? If you know other business owners, do you need funding for your business? So it's a business not only that you can do as your primary business, but if you're in another industry, it's something that you can add as a service to what it is that you already offer.
So what's the first step that we need to take if we're starting? We have the knowledge, but we don't have the business. If we're starting from ground zero with the business, we got the LLC, we got the funding, everything else. But how can we? What's the first step we need to take now, turning this credit information that we have into a cash flowing funding and credit business?
Okay, so first thing I would say is, if you have everything, you need to make sure that you have a way to collect payments. So assuming that a person doesn't have that, go ahead and find something, you know, find a way for you to be able to collect payments. So, you know, when we're starting out, CTC is my motto. I tell my sales reps, you know, collect the cash. So when you're networking, when you're talking to people, Cash App, Zelle, whatever you got to do to collect the cash to fulfill on your service, then you do that. But obviously you want to get to a point to where you're collecting payments like a legitimate business. But I would say first things first, we all have one of these. I have like 4 of them, but we all have a cell phone. Go on that cell phone, go post on Facebook and say, yo, I was able to successfully clean my credit from the low 400s to the high 700s, whatever it might be. Post some screenshots of a testimonial and say, if you're interested, let me know. And people will reach out to you, and then you can begin to have a conversation with them to turn them into a paying client. I would usually say, and this is just me being honest, the people that join my program and the people that are in my program, making an extra $5,000 to $10,000 a month running a credit repair and funding company is a very practical thing. And that's why I've been able to have success in such a short amount of time. And that's why the people that are in my program are killing it, because I have people who come into contact with me working a 9-to-5, doing whatever it is that they do. And they're like, it's only been 3 days and I've already made 5,000. It's like, yes, because you have people that know, like, and trust you as a person. So now that you're offering that service, they're going to be prone to working with you and giving it a try, rather than working with some random guy that they may have seen online with no social proof. So I would say your warm market is going to be first step of you making your first 10 to 15,000. But then we also have some organic ways as well that we show our mentees how to get clients.
I mean, you gotta drop at least one.
We got a little time.
We got a little time. What are some of the organic ways?
Okay, so I'm gonna touch on the Eventbrite play right quick, because I saw somebody else drop it on here, and that's something that I teach. But I'm gonna give some other ones that weren't on here, because, man, you got one of the best shows, bro. One of the best audiences, man. So we got to show love every time we come on here. We're not doing no gatekeeping. So
no gatekeeping.
First things first, you can go on Eventbrite. There's something that people do. You can go and either set up a listing, say free business funding or free credit repair event, and you can set it as a virtual event. So people that are all over searching on Eventbrite, there's some people that don't use Instagram. There's some people that don't use different social media platforms or even Google to find things. There are people, local people that just use Eventbrite, or whatever resources they're accustomed to using. So you can set up a free virtual event on Eventbrite, free credit repair, free funding, to where you can have hundreds, sometimes even thousands. I've had 1,000 people sign up for a virtual event on Eventbrite, basically where I said, I'm going to show you how to do X, Y, and Z, all this stuff. And then I just hosted a free webinar, basically through Eventbrite, where I had all these people come and just sit with me for 30 minutes, give out a little bit of game, and then you can make an offer. That's a way that you can get clients on Eventbrite. Take it a step further with the Eventbrite play. You can search business chapter. You can search women business network or anything business in Eventbrite. Filter it to your area, and then you have all these business owners that are having conferences, and you can reach out and say, hey, can I come offer business funding services? And because a lot of these times, these are local meetups. These are weekly, bi-weekly, sometimes even monthly meetups that these different business groups and different things like that are having.
Yeah.
And they'll respond because it's the organizer of the event. It's letting you reach out to them. So you're going straight to the source, and it allows you to have a conversation with this person who will then allow you to come offer your services to their people. But we on a Marvin Francois show, so we gotta go. This is the way that I was able to get somebody $1 million in funding. The most funding that I've ever gotten somebody was $1 million in funding. It was a combination of some business credit cards, different things like that, but mainly SBA stuff and some lines of credit and term loans. Every state, city usually has like a chamber of commerce. So they have some sort of business meetup that's put on by the city. You can either just be a member of it, there's an association fee, or you can come as a guest. A couple times they'll let you come. If you go to these local meetups, you're in the room with business owners that run largely successful businesses. There's so many businesses out there, donut shops, coffee shops, local businesses in your area that are making insane revenue, but they're just not franchised. So you think that, okay, it's not everywhere, so they might not be doing that great, but they're making great money. There's that mom and pop shop that's been there for 40 years. They're there for a reason, for that amount of time. So you can go to these Chamber of Commerce meetings and meet up with people, shake hands in the network and the mixers and stuff. So I was able to go into a Chamber of Commerce in Dallas and be able to meet multiple business owners. And that was honestly one of our best months, where we were able to just network and shake hands with those people, where you're able to find clients who are able to have business revenue, and you can go and get them. Those are some of the easiest clients to fund. And that's just on the organic, right? So as we start to build a sustainable business, then you can start to attract and pay for people to come to you, as far as like paid traffic, different things like that. But those are just some of the organic ways. I could keep going all day.
That's my first time hearing about that. You said it's the chamber. Say it again.
The Chamber of Commerce.
Hey, I know I'm going after this
Chamber
episode.
of Commerce. People were loving the instant data scraper gym that I gave last time, but the Chamber of Commerce is a great one to do as well.
Okay. So we have the foundation of understanding how to get people in the door, whether it's just getting in contact with people on Facebook and Instagram that know us personally.
Yep.
We already have the know, like, and trust with us. Or going a step further of whether you're talking about the Eventbrite strategy, the Chamber of Commerce strategy, and beyond. What's interesting is there are going to be a percentage of individuals that take the information, run it, and start making money, right, from their credit and funding. And around the same time, as I'm seeing now and as you're seeing now, in them running this business, anyone that's in the entrepreneurial space, we hear a lot of talk about multiple streams of income, right? They say when you have one source of income, it's too close to none. You need at least 7. The average millionaire has 7.
Man.
And I think a lot of people are going to hear this information and hear that information and say, okay, cool. I'm now making X amount of my credit business. Now, if I need multiple streams, I got to go run this business, and then I got to open an e-commerce store. And then after that, I got to go start this trucking business.
And you
then I got to get in real estate. I got to start a crypto business. You and I know that that's not the name to the game that individuals should be following when it comes to this adage of multiple streams of income. How are you coaching individuals around how they can take this business model and make multiple streams of income from it?
Man, I can't. It sounds so crazy to say, but I honestly can't believe that people are still broke in 2025, because I feel like we're in a day and age where it hasn't been easier to make an extra $5,000 or $10,000 a month. There are so many people that are so distracted with the multiple streams of income lies and some of these myths out here that you don't even have to be like, taking insane action. You could literally just be walking in the right direction. You're going to make it a lot farther than people that are going in the wrong direction. So the multiple streams of income thing is a big myth. But whenever I meet mentees or when people come to my program, one of the main things I tell them is, look, you want to start a funding business. That's great. But at the end of the day, there's going to be more people that want funding that don't qualify than there are going to be people that just come to you that are qualified.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of what it is. I mean, it's you're going to have more leads than you actually have clients. That's what it is a lot of times. That's just how leads work.
Yeah.
So why not get paid for your time to where, so that's two streams of income right there. It's like, okay, you have the inbound traffic or however you're getting clients where it's like, okay, you're interested in getting funding, but you don't qualify. So now we can sell you a credit repair service where we can help you repair your credit. So we can sell you a credit repair service. Oh, okay. You don't have an LLC. We have a consulting service where we can help you set up an LLC. Okay, that's a third stream of income. Okay, cool. We've started to build your credit out. Or you haven't built your credit out. Now we're affiliates with Self, Kickoff, Rent Reporters, BoomPay, Ava, all these different credit builder accounts where now you can build your credit out. So it's like, not only am I helping you, I'm getting a kickback for helping these people out. So that's another stream of income. I don't know what number we're on now, but because they want 7 streams. But
we're just going to keep rocking.
Okay, you need Tradelines? Okay, cool. You can go on Tradeline Supply. You can go on different places where you can become a vendor and you can go and resell these trade lines. And you can resell them and make a profit and still undercut the market because there's people charging an arm and leg for these trade lines, but you can go and get them at wholesale and then just resell them. So as far as the multiple streams, I would say, it's a big misconception. Those are a lot of ways that you can do it. But really the main thing is like for just an extra $5,000 to $10,000 a month, you can leverage just a personal loan play like a pre-approval, like credible.com, or you can just sell trade lines, or you can just take on credit repair clients. But you should be able to successfully, easily make an extra $5,000 to $10,000 a month, even $10,000 to $15,000 a month with just one stream. A lot of times we get caught in like trying to have all these streams of income, but it's like the main stream is not even good enough.
Stream ain't streaming.
The stream ain't streaming, and you trying to go do 20 other different things, and it's like that's the reason why the one isn't working, because a lot of times you are competing with somebody that's only doing that one thing, and you think that you're going to beat them by doing 10 different things. And they've been doing that one thing, perfecting that one kick
nonstop, every day, all day. That's all they do.
By the time you get back to trying that, we said 10,000 kicks. By the time you get back to trying that 9,000 kick, they've done 9,000 of those kicks. So it's just like, I get on my soapbox about that, bro.
I'm right there with you. So then I'm curious to know from your experience, right? Because we talk about the mistake that business owners make when it comes to this multiple streams of income. I want to kind of flip it and talk about some of the right decisions that these business owners need to be making in this business. From your personal experience and from the people that you've coached, what are the 3 most important decisions that most business owners can make that'll help them get to their first 6 figures?
That can help them get to their first 6 figures. Man, that's a great one. I would say the main thing that, and this is something that I talk with my lady about a lot lately, mistake that business owners are making or things that they can do. Every time I look up and I'm like, man, why has there been a decline in revenue? What is going on? Why was there a drop off? What might have been the times where I was making the most money? I was only focusing on like maybe 1 or 2 funding plays, maybe sometimes even 3, or a very simple sequence. And it's like, okay, we tried to leverage getting this person the funding and it didn't work. Maybe there's some more work that you need to do, or maybe just letting them know like, hey, this is where it ends for us. Because if you're somebody that's working in the business, which is what the second thing I will say is like, if you're somebody that's working in the business and you're trying to do all these different plays or trying to do all these different banks for a person, you might not be able to really grow because you're getting stuck on this one thing while other people are just moving fast. Like the guy that's only doing the chase play and he's like just smacking chase. It's like, okay, yeah, he might that well might run dry at some point, but the thing is you got to realize it's like he may have made over 6-7 figures from just running that one play while you're trying to do a bunch of different plays. So I would say focusing on like one channel, maybe a few if you have, as it relates to getting people business funding as far as the credit repair and funding business goes. The second thing I would say is working in the business and not on the business. There's a lot of entrepreneurs, and even I've found myself as like, you know, it's so crazy. And now that I'm on the other side of the table, when I was making a lot less money, I was working a lot harder. And now we're making way more money and I'm not working as hard. And I feel guilty at times saying this, but it's like, you hire people that are better than you to do the things that you don't like to do.
Facts.
So why not? Why like that sounds so crazy. Why am I doing the things in my business that I don't like to do? Especially if those things are things that aren't making the business money. So even for myself, it reached a point to where me taking calls or me doing customer service was losing us money. So we started to outsource and we started to hire people. There's gyms. You can go on places like onlinejobs.ph and you can find people in other countries where you can hire them for a fraction of the cost of what it would cost you to hire somebody here in the US. And that will allow you to find somebody that's going to work hard, they're going to be grateful, and they're going to be, and you're helping them because the conversion rate here, like our dollars go a lot further than what the exchange rate is there. So outsourcing is the second thing I would say that really will allow a person to go to that 6, even 7 figures. Because a lot of times it's like, okay, if like I said, if you're working in the business and you're doing customer service or you're doing, onboarding, those are things that aren't going to bring in income, but they're necessary, essential parts of running the business, I would say. The third thing I would say is most people, they are not spending enough money on their business.
Come on.
They are not spending enough money on their business. And a lot of people get caught in this rabbit hole of like, I'm investing in myself, but what they don't realize is like, you really aren't investing enough into yourself. Like they get caught in this rabbit hole of maybe getting more information, I don't know, logos, whatever it might be. But it's like you have to pay for eyeballs. The way what's gonna help you make more money is eyeballs, because money follows attention. It's not the person that has the best business model. There are people, and I was telling my assistant this the other day, the more that we focus on being the best and having everything just so together, it seems like the money's going down versus whenever we were just like, we're just gonna let it rip.
Right.
We're just gonna let the rocket boosters rip, and we're just gonna let as many people come in, and we're gonna do our best. But at the end of the day, that's just what it is. It's like when you think about Netflix, these big corporations, it's like a dumpster fire. But they're making so much money. So I think a lot of people are just not spending enough on their business. It's like they might spend $5,000, or they might spend $2,000, $1,500 on some ads, and they think like,
I should be a millionaire.
I'm investing in myself.
Yeah, I should be a millionaire.
I'm investing in myself. It's almost one of those things with what I've realized with the way money has worked for me. Obviously, sometimes you expect to get a 3 to 5x on whatever it is you spend, but for me and my business, with being online, with ads, different things like that, it's like if you want to make a certain amount of money, you have to almost be willing to spend half of that amount of money. So it's like a lot of times when what people aren't telling people online is like, okay, yes, they made $1 million, but they may have spent $500,000. With this business model, luckily we're in an industry, in a space where you don't have to, there's really no overhead essentially. So, you're not having to pay for a bunch of warehouses or anything like that. But spending money on eyeballs, I guarantee you, if you're watching this and you're running a credit repair and funding business, you are not spending enough on your business. Just because now that I'm in this, there's a lot of money getting spent. And even with my mentors, the people I see that are at higher levels in other industries or in this industry, they are spending that bag. They are spending it, And I would say for me, that's kind of been one of the shifts, is like sometimes to go to another level in your business, you may have to spend something that's out of your comfort zone. A lot of times not knowing if it's going to come back or when it's going to come back, rather. So, sometimes to really get out of survival mode in your business or hiring somebody, you might only be making $10,000 or $15,000 a month, $20,000 a month, but to hire an A player on your team, it may cost you, $5,000 a month or half of that revenue. But now you're gonna have so much more time to go and get more money. And not only that, sometimes too, these people that you hire, they bring insight coming from other companies and stuff that can help you guys make more money.
This is good, bro. This is very, very good. What's interesting to hear you talk the way that you're talking is, this is your second time on the show, and the first time you were here, last year, you were one foot in, I don't want to say one foot in, one foot out, but you were running a successful business while you were still at your 9 to 5. Fast forward now, you're full time into entrepreneurship.
Yep.
So you've been on all three sides of this, if you will, to where you've been at a point in your life where you were strictly just 9 to 5 and that's it. You've been at a point where you're half 9 to 5 and I'm also running my business, from 5 to 9. And now you're at a point where you are full time into entrepreneurship. And I say that because we have a lot of people who may be watching this episode right now who are in one of those three buckets, probably in one of the first two, where they are either all in on their 9 to 5 and they're thinking about starting a business, or they're still in their 9 to 5, but they just started their business and they're trying to get it from the ground up. A lot of them see you, and they're like, man, I'm just 9 to 5. I know my business isn't where it needs to be yet, but I'm finna just go all in on business right now. What are the conversations that you have with maybe some students of yours that are coming into your program who may be in a similar situation like those people when it comes to making that decision, given that, it's a decision you've had to make, it's a decision I've had to make in terms of what that process should look like?
Man, so I'll say this, and this is something that I tell my students all the time, and there's some heavy hitters in this space. Y'all have heavy hitters on here all the time. You're a heavy hitter. I don't think that there's anybody, I would argue, that made 7 figures in credit repair and funding faster than I did. And I say that because of my willingness to not let go of my 9 to 5. Because for a lot of people, myself included, what I tell people is like, the reason why I was able to move so fast is because my 9 to 5 was my first employee. So while I was working a 9 to 5, any money that was made from the credit repair, any money that was made from the funding, I was able to reinvest that money and not have to worry about, still needing that money to live off of. Now being on the other side of the table, absolute blessing. I live in a penthouse now. I've been able to buy a Lamborghini in the last couple of months, but making those sacrifices early to really grow and build a sustainable business is what allowed me to grow super fast. And I tell people all the time, it's like, okay, if you're not making the type of money to, I would say, at least 2 or 3x what you're making at your job monthly, then it might not be worth leaving your 9 to 5, because you might just be, what a lot of people don't realize, trading a job for another job or another lower paying job and running a business. So, a lot of the education that I give people, and I've even left my 9 to 5 and had to go back to the 9 to 5. Yeah. So that's the thing that people don't realize is like super, super blessing to be on this side of the table. It's not easy. You are having to use your mind. You're having to figure things out. There's fires
every day.
And I didn't want to work a 9 to 5, and now I work 24/7. Yeah. So, if it's something that you really want to do and you feel that calling, then I definitely would say that, set that goal. What I ended up doing actually for myself, and it's so funny, I don't even know if it's still on my phone, but I get a notification every day that used to say like leave AT&T. And so I set that calendar invite, or I set that reminder in my calendar, and I still get that to this day. But set a date, set a date in the future if that's something that you want to do. But I would not recommend, anyone in my program, is what I tell them, I would not recommend leaving your 9 to 5 until you at least have, a nest egg saved up. And not only that, until you have some funding. Because as it relates to your business, you have to spend money to make money, is what a lot of people don't realize, going back to what we were just talking about. You're going to have to be willing to spend money to make money. And wealth is such a spiritual principle that for whatever reasons, like the more you spend, the more you make. But you're going to have to be able to spend money. Yep. And if you're not in a position right now where your business is not making enough money to where you can spend and you're not ready to take those risks, then the 9 to 5 may be for you. But for me, none of my coworkers were driving a Lamborghini. So, I've been able to leave my 9 to 5 and be in a position where I'm fortunate, but you gotta drop those nuts.
And go all in.
You have to make decisions, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, that are tough decisions, whereas with working a 9 to 5, you can get off work and you have that security. It's like, there's times where it's like, dang, I want to hang out and watch Netflix with my lady, but I still have stuff to do. So it's like, okay, those are trade-offs you have to make. It's like, nah, we're not going out to eat right now. We're locked in. Or, okay, I stayed up and now we're watching movies, but now I can't go to bed because I have to fix whatever this thing is, So I definitely would say continue to stay locked in on your 9 to 5. Let it be your first employee because that's what I was able to do. And, I talk about being able to make so much money in the first place, but there's so many frameworks that I got from working a 9 to 5, so many habits, so many ways that I saw how things were run and working for a billion-dollar corporation that I've been able to now apply to what it is that I'm doing now.
Attention business owners, are you tired of getting denied for business credit because your personal credit is still holding you back? You have the business, you have the vision, but every single time that you apply, lenders hit you with the same brick wall time after time again, your credit report. You see, here at Takeoff Financial, we use advanced consumer law strategies to get every negative item removed from your credit report. Things like collections, charge-offs, late payments, delinquent student loans, and so much more. And best of all, it's fully done for you. Our team sends out the dispute letters, files the complaints, and handles everything needed to get your credit to the finish line, which means you don't have to lift a finger and we'll do all the heavy lifting needed to put you in position to finally get approved for business credit. So if you're ready to stop getting denied and start getting funded, head over to takeofffinancial.com to book a free consultation with me and my team to see how we can put you in position to get one step closer to your funding goals.
At this point in your journey, what would you, as we start to kind of close things out, what would you say is your North Star? Like you're at a point now, like you said, where you got the car, the money, and all these other different things. What are you chasing right now in business?
I would say like the thing for me is prior to this year, there was a lot of time where it was like I was making money, but I wasn't like really tracking things. So now I have like revenue goals and stuff that I plan on hitting. But I had an interesting conversation with a good friend of mine in January. And he's like, how much money do you want to make this year? And I was like, I really feel like we should finish at 3 or 4 million. I would really have to mess some things up, to make 3 or 4, if we don't make 3 or 4 million this year. And he was like, okay, well, how are you going to get there? Mm-hmm. And so I think like for me, kind of talking about, what you're saying as far as North Star, like right now, a lot of my focus is like really like getting into the weeds of like forecasting. How much are we spending? How much are we making? How do we, what direction are we going to go in? Different things like that. But I would say for me, I have this goal of earning anywhere from, like 1.5 to 2 million a month, and that's a number that I place on it. But for me, in the short term, a lot of my goals are just getting to the point to where I can really help my family out, The same goals that I had when making it to the NFL, buy mom a house, buy grandma a house. Those are things that I really want to do. But I want to be able to do them responsibly in a way where, I have enough money to give them the down payment, but I want to be able to say like, no, like y'all don't even have to worry about this at all. Like this is the house, like y'all are put up, y'all do what y'all just live here. So I would say 20 million a year would be like where I actually see myself in the next like 3 to 5 years. But billionaire bays. So I want to be, but a lot of that has to do more so with the impact that I want to make because a lot of those multi-billion-dollar corporations, they employ so many people. So that's really the part that I've loved about this so much is like how much I make is directly tied and related to the amount of people that I get to impact. And that's just something that like matters to me way more than the money. I get texts every day from the people in my program about how just their minds have been open to this whole new world of, being able to make extra money, monthly and not have to stress about bills and different things like that. So all of that, far exceeds making the money. But, we are so blessed to be in an industry where, the more we make, the more people we impact. So
man,
it's insane, bro.
Basil Jackson.
Blessings.
It is always a pleasure to have you on here. I know we got to get you out of here, but before we do that, I know you have a lot coming up. Talk to the people. Number one, let them know where they can find you. And two, let them know about what you have going on right now.
Yeah, so absolutely. So for everybody on the pod, you can find me on Instagram at Billionaire Baze. That's billionaire BAZE_. I actually kind of want to change that at some point because there's too many billionaire people online, but I can't let them run me off because I was one of the few original people. But you can find me on social media platforms, Billionaire Baze, like I said, BAZE_, Facebook, social media, Instagram, TikTok, all under the same name. Basil Jackson is my name, so you usually can find it there as well. And for the show, I'm going to do something for y'all. I'm going to do a free ebook. So a free scale to success ebook I want to do for people. So I believe there are 4 pillars of scaling any online business, whether that's credit repair funding or any coaching business. So I want to give out that framework on how I was able to scale this business to a 7-figure business in a short amount of time. I'm going to do a student loan removal guide, an ebook bundle. That ebook bundle usually goes for around $600. So I'm going to give it to everybody on here for free.
Dope.
I do have a virtual event coming up, but for everybody on here, I'm going to do a free masterclass. So I'm going to do a free class for everybody on here. I'm going to do the ebook bundle. And whenever you're watching this, I'll be doing the free class. You know, we'll do them a couple days a week. So link should be in the description or
Yes, sir.
wherever. Yeah. So
Beautiful, beautiful. My guy, thank you so much for part 2. This very well may warrant a part 3.
man,
We gotta wait.
I'm
and
hoping
see.
so.
Come on, man.
We got to collab, bro. Like I said, we got the chemistry and
Yeah.
stuff like that, man.
Yeah.
You gotta come to Texas and we could eat some chicken and rice.
There you go. There you go. And you have a lot. You know, we're both in the credit space, both athletes. You know, we've talked about that as well. You understand? Superior athlete.
Both chose not to go to the NBA and the
Come
NFL.
on. There you go. Chose. There you go.
Chose not to.
I'll let you
Chose
say
not
it.
to.
I didn't want to
Chose
say it
not
on the
to.
pod.
He's
but
like, it's like, we got to make more impact.
That's it.
We're not one trick ponies.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, there are people out there who, if they had that taken away from them,
they would lose their minds.
They would lose their. I lost mine, but I found it again.
I just put my hoop dreams to the side. I said, and God said, "There's something over here for you." And the over here was credit, and I just left it alone. That was it.
Absolute blessing to be able to impact people and say, "Bro, we got to do something together. We got to figure out how we can collab or something."
We'll make it happen.
Are you doing anything online and stuff? I know we still, but are you doing anything live or anything?
But if it makes sense, you can make it happen.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Let me know how I can support you or anything like that, bro.
I got you. And for everyone that's watching at home, listen, we appreciate you for supporting us and this episode. And if you haven't already, what are you doing? Oh my goodness, take a second, take a minute, take an hour out of your day right here, right now to go ahead, slap the like button, show this episode some love, tell a friend to come back and rewatch this episode again. And ladies and gentlemen, as always, my name is Marvin Francois. That is the great Basil Jackson. You guys have been good. We've been great. This has been amazing. And always, thank you. God bless. Peace.